Hello and welcome to Louise Singleton Creations. In today's video I will be making resin axolotls with my brand new mould from Let's Resin. I really loved the look of this mould. It looked so versatile and such a lovely shape too. I could imagine all different ways of casting with this mould, so I couldn't wait to have a go. And if you would like to see what I came up with, stay tuned and enjoy the video. Whenever I get a new mould, I like to have a practice run with it first of all, and this one was no different. For me, it feels like I can never really appreciate the form and structure of the finished piece until I've actually made it. Just from looking at the mould, it's hard to come up with ideas and to think about what will work and what won't work. So yeah, this first one is just a practice. And for that reason, I didn't spend too long planning my colour. I just went for pink, which seems to be very popular when making axolotls. So here's the fuchsia pink that I'm using from Let's Resin, and I'm just brushing the mica powder onto the areas where I want it to be a little bit darker. As you know, I was keeping this first one very simple, and so I decided to just fill it up all in one go with resin, and for that reason I chose Let's Resin's regular epoxy resin. You might have noticed that the bottles were quite wet. That's because I had them warming up in my resin preheater. Even though the weather has been quite warm here, I do find that it helps a lot if you can pre-warm your resin. It just makes it a little bit more fluid and less bubbly. After mixing the resin for 2 minutes, it was time to add my pigment, and I went for Let's Resin's opaque pink pigment. However, I did decide when I took the lid off to paint most of my work surface at the same time. I don't know what happened there, but it went everywhere. Once I was happy with the colour, I decided to add a little bit of chunky glitter. So I got out my Let's Resin's Mixology Opal glitter and chose a pinkish coloured one and just added a little bit. I didn't want to go overboard with it, but I was thinking if the glitter could sink to the bottom, it would make my axolotl look like it had a bit of a spotty back, which is what I wanted. And so, yeah, just a little bit of glitter went a long way. And then I poured it into the mould. And the good thing about Let's Resin's mould is it tells you on the mould how much resin you need to fill it, which was really handy. I can't even remember. I think it was 2 fluid ounces. Oh, no, I don't know. I can't remember, but I don't need to remember, do I? Because if you get this mould, I can just about see it now, can you? What was it? 4.5 fluid ounces. I'm looking at it while I'm narrating. Yeah, so it really does help when it tells you on the mould how much you need to mix up. Anyway, I'm giving it a good squeeze in those awkward areas like the tip of the tail and the frill on its head, its gills. So yeah, the gills need a good squeeze, and then once all that's done and you know you've got no air pockets left, you can fill it up. Now then, one of my videos wouldn't be one of my videos if I didn't try something a little bit different. Even though this was still my first attempt and I was keeping it simple, I had an idea that I really wanted to try. I'd bought some little suction cups. I think they're about 2 centimetres wide. And I thought if I could add a suction cup onto each of the feet while the resin was wet, just, place them into the resin, then it could stick on a window. That was my idea. Or onto like a door. My mum's got some patio doors and people are always running into them or walking into them because they don't realise they're closed. And it's very embarrassing. Yeah. And I was thinking if one of these could be stuck onto the door, people would be much less likely to walk into it. So that was the idea anyway. Let's see what happened. Now, straight away, I found a problem. The suction cups were sinking. So this idea, as I'm doing it here, didn't work. They just went too deep. So I had to come up with plan B. So I had some offcuts of acrylic, which came in very handy. I stuck the suction cups onto there and then elevated the suction cups over the mould at just the right height in the end. I had to find the right height. So that they just went in just deep enough so that they weren't sinking, but yeah, that was the plan anyway. It took a while to get the height right. I think it was the 2 pots of the a pot on each side of the glitter, which was handy. And then I ended up using 2 lollipop sticks as well to get the height just right. And yeah, it was a lot of messing around and it was all a little bit messy. But at least on my proper one that I do next, I knew that all I needed to do was use those 2 pots and 2 lollipop sticks. And yeah, it was easy the second time. And here's a close-up view of all 4 of the suction cups in place. Right, the next day it was time for demoulding. I took the acrylic off the suction cups very carefully because I really wasn't sure. It was hard to see at the time of placing them whether I'd got them deep enough. And I was right to be worried about that because a couple of them weren't very well immersed in there and they did just come off in the end. And they needed gluing back on. But this is why it's good to have a practice, isn't it? So for demoulding it, I found it worked a lot better if I did it in soapy water, but it still took me a while. I'm going to fast forward a little bit now. So I did find that it works best if you demould the tail first and the head last. And the telltale suction cup laying on the table tells us that idea wasn't entirely successful, but it was something that was worth working on my second attempt. I wasn't ready to give up at that stage. But otherwise, yeah, definitely. It looks good, doesn't it? I like the glitter on the back. It does give it a slightly spotted back effect. And yeah, I think it's very cute. And so I was able to have a practice at doing the eyes and mouth, with this being my practice one. I do like to have a practice, you know. So what I had done already was I painted the background of the eyes white, and I'm just using acrylic paint. And soon I will do the inners of the black inners, the black parts of the eyes. But here I'm just doing the mouth. You've got to be careful and it takes some time, and yeah, have a baby wipe handy for when you go wrong, because you probably will. I know I did. And yeah, once they were all painted, it looked very good. So with my practice finished, I'd already learned quite a lot, and I was able to sit with it and have a really good look and plan out my next one. And so what I decided to do was use some of those shell pieces from Laura's Art Corner and some chameleon powder from Let's Resin. I'm going for the teal, and I'm going to add it to all the places where I added the pink before. So with this one, I'm going to be doing it in 2 layers, and so I'm using fast cure resin just to make the whole process a lot quicker, and because it's not going to be too deep, and now I can get away with using the fast cure resin. I wouldn't recommend using this resin if you're filling it all up in one go. It's just too deep. It might overheat and fuse to your mould, and it might also be very bubbly if you pour it too deep. So yeah, it's good if you're just partially filling your mould. So as I already mentioned, I wanted to use some of those beautiful shell pieces, and I didn't want to have them all the way along the base of my mould because they would have been on the head, and I didn't want my axolotl to have the stones on the top of his head, so I needed to be curing this at an angle. so that it would work the way I wanted it to. It might not make much sense to you at the moment, but it will do soon. So yeah, I was finding something. You can see me messing about with that box. What I was doing was I was finding something to put the mould onto so I could prop up the box while the resin was curing, and it would all be at an angle. So yeah, that's what I was doing, and trust me, it will all make sense very soon. Anyway, let's get on with this. I poured a little bit of resin into one of those little plastic cups that you get with your Let's resin kits, and they're very handy. Every now and again I've got quite a lot of them collected, and I always think, I'm not sure if I'm ever going to use all these. But then all of a sudden, you need one, and you realise just how handy those little plastic pots are. Anyway, I put a little bit of resin in there, added some shell, gave it a really good mix up before adding it to the mould. I just thought that might be the best way of doing it. And here you can see that the box that my mould is on is now propped up at the right angle, and I've kept on adding more stones and more resin until I'm happy with it. I did find that the mould started sliding down the box, so I ended up opening the box, and obviously common sense, why didn't I think of it in the first place? I ended up opening the box and putting it inside, and that way it couldn't slide down. And here it is from the side, so you can see a lot better now what's actually going on. And so once that was cured, I was able to carry on with my mica powder, applying it to the hands in just the same way as I did before. Then I mixed up the rest of my resin to fill up the mould, and this time the pigment I'm using is a little bit of seashell pigment. It's from the mica powder set from Let's Resin. Also, I added a little bit of the teal in there as well to make it like a light blue, but I didn't want it to be too blue, but I wanted a little bit of blue in there to bring the whole thing together. So what I'd actually done is split the seashell colour that I'd already mixed into two and added the blue to one of the two parts. Then put it back in with the seashell, so it's a bit like a dirty pour. They're both in there together, but I was hoping to just get a bit of a nicer effect by doing it that way. So we'll see what happens anyway. And just in the same way as before, I filled it slowly, giving everything a good squeeze, and I added the suction cups to the feet again, just like before, but this time instead of using 2 lollipop sticks, I used 1 so that they went a little bit deeper and didn't fall out. Later that day, when it was cured, it was time to get it out of the mould, and this time I was quite excited. I really wanted to see how those beautiful shell pieces would look on the axolotl's back. Yeah, I was very curious and excited. Let's see how it turned out. I actually really love this. Sorry, it's a little bit blurry. You will get some better views of it. But yeah, I love those shell pieces in there. They are one of my favourite things, shell pieces. I love them. I love the different shades you get in there and all the little iridescent shiny bits. Oh, it's just all gorgeous and I love it. And I'm so happy that I cured it at an angle so that it was just on the back and the tail and not on the head. I just didn't want it to be on the head. But yeah, that looks really good. Next, I started painting the eyes in just the same way as before, but while the white paint was drying, I decided to add some spots to the axolotl's head just to add some extra detail. And for that, I decided to use my fine-tipped glue pen just to draw on the dots. And then once the dots were no longer white and they'd gone clear, well, they go kind of like a pale blue colour, then you know it's tacky and ready for the whatever you're going to stick on it. I'm using the chameleon powder that I've already been using for this. So yeah, once it's done that and it's not white anymore, you know it's ready. And then I sprinkled on my teal chameleon powder. I didn't want to brush it on just in case the glue wasn't quite set enough, cured enough. Do you know what I mean? I didn't want it to be wet. I didn't want to be brushing it in case those spots were still slightly wet and making a mess. So yeah, I left it a little bit messy. I blew off the excess, but I didn't brush off the excess until I knew it would be completely dry. And then I finished off the eyes and the mouth. When the eyes were dry, I decided to make them shiny, so I took a little bit of Let's Resin's UV resin and a micro brush and just covered the eyes with that, put it under the lamp for 2 minutes to cure it, and then he had some lovely shiny eyes. Because I still had my UV resin and the lamp out, I thought I might as well decorate his tummy, because if he's going to be stuck on a window, he will be visible from both sides, and so he wants to have a presentable tummy, I think. And so I added dots of UV resin, just a few at a time, and then cured it for about 30 seconds. Don't do it too long. You don't want it to fully cure. You need it to be a little bit tacky for the chameleon powders to stick to it. So just about 30 seconds will do before you move on to your next set of spots. And here's his tummy when it was all finished. So yeah, much more presentable, isn't it? So overall, I'm really happy with the mould. I love the finished results, especially my teal coloured one. That's my absolute favourite, and I love him to bits. What I would say though is the suction cups on the feet did not work brilliantly. It kept falling off. Yeah, I need to be honest with you, it didn't work so well. I'm not giving up on the idea. I'm actually thinking if the suction cups were bigger and perhaps on the body instead of the feet, it would work better. I think they were just not strong enough for the weight of the body. Yeah, so like I say, I'm not giving up on the idea, but it does need some improving, and yeah, I wouldn't recommend you do it the way I've done it today. But you know what it's like. I do a lot of experiments in my videos, and sometimes they go wrong, sometimes they go right. You get to see them all. So hopefully it's given you a bit of inspiration anyway. If you've enjoyed the video, I'd really appreciate it if you could give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you would like to. As always, all the links and discount codes will be in my video description. So that's it for today. Thank you for watching, and I will see you again next time. Bye for now.